How are you doing this morning, Mr. Kubosh?
Fine.
And could you just state your name and spell it for the record, please?
I'm Felix Michael Kubosh, F-E-L-I-X, Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Kubosh, K-U-B-O-S-H.
And how are you employed, sir?
I am a city council member for the last 5 years. I work for the city of Houston as a council member. I'm an elected official. And I'm a Harris County bail bondsman for the past 21 years.
Can you sit a little bit closer to the microphone?
Okay.
Better? Thank you. You're a council person, you said, for 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And what area do you represent?
The entire city of Houston.
Okay.
I'm an at-large council member.
You're at-large, okay. And you have another business you run as well, correct?
Yes, sir. I own a bail bonding business called Kubosh Bail Bonds.
And how long have you been doing that for?
21 years.
And just so that the jury's a little bit familiar with what happens, somebody pays you a portion of a bond, you post the entire bond, and the person bonds out of jail.
That's correct.
Anytime in late February, early March of last year, do you recall ever coming into contact with the defendant, Leon Jacob?
February the 23rd, 2017 at 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
Okay. And just so we're clear about who you're talking about, do you see this person, Leon Jacob, in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you go ahead and identify him by something that he's wearing?
Striped tie and a black suit with a white shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that witnesses identify the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
And so could you tell the jury about the circumstances in which you came to encounter the defendant?
I had received a call from my staff that I had bonded out a doctor and that he was wanting to meet with me, which was a little unusual that I don't normally meet people that I bond out on. But I said, okay, I'll meet with him. I received another call saying he continues to call. He wants to meet with you. It's important. So I said, we'll set an appointment for 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll leave my city office and I'll drive to my bonding office and I'll meet with him.
And do you recall what charge your company was involved in bonding him out on?
I bonded him out on the stalking charge, a $15,000 bond.
And you mentioned that it's not usual for you to meet with your clients. Is that because you have a lot of clients? And
I have staff who does the intakes, possibly runs the bonds, and they do the intakes, and they meet with the defendants once they get out of jail and go over what the requirements or the court orders are that they have to follow.
Now, at the time that this meeting was set for you to meet with the defendant, did you have any idea going into that what the defendant wanted to meet with you about?
I had no idea what he wanted to meet about.
Okay. And when and where did that meeting take place, sir?
It took place at 1701 Lubbock Street. That's my bonding business. It occurred in my office.
And could you describe for us what happened in that meeting?
Well, at 4 o'clock, Dr. Leon Jacob came to my office. He walked through the door. He shut the door behind him, which made me feel a little odd. I don't normally have people do that. I don't ever recall anyone ever doing that. And he shut the door, and I stood up behind my desk, and he said, I'm Dr. Leon Jacob, and I told him I'm Michael Kubosh. He said, I'm here to, all I want is one thing from you. I want Zach's number.
At this point, did you have any idea who he was talking about?
No, I didn't have any idea who Zach was.
And did he give you any descriptions of this person to maybe jog your memory to see if you could recall who he's talking about?
Well, he seemed to know that I knew who Zach was. He said that he was Middle Eastern, that he was prior military, and that he had worked for the CIA, and that I knew who he was. And I told him I can't think of him. And I said, well, sir, who are you talking about? And so I got on the computer and I pulled up the charging instrument on the stalking charge, and I said, are you talking about Megan Veracos? And he said, yes. And I said, well, sir, you can't have any contact with her, and you can't have any contact with her through anyone else.
As opposed to narrative, but we have question and answer.
Certainly. You were saying something about when you learned the person he was speaking of, the problem that Zach was going to take care of. You were saying that you were telling him that per his bond agreements, I assume that he wasn't allowed to have any contact with this person. Is that right?
Well, I felt quite confident that the judge would be upset if he knew he was making contact with Megan Veracaz, since it was a stalking charge.
Did you get through the course of your conversation with the defendant? Were you ever alarmed at the phrasing of things or the way that he said things about his problem with Megan?
Yes, in fact, I said, I asked him, why are you talking to me like this? I said, you know, I'm not just a bondsman, I'm a city council member. I've taken an oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution and the people of the city. Why are you talking to me like this?
Did you have any idea, or did he ever tell you the reason he felt comfortable telling you about getting rid of a witness in a stalking case?
He said that all he was so focused on was getting Zach's number. He had paid him a lot of money, and he wanted this witness, which I learned to be Megan Veracaz, to not testify against him on these cases, because it would also hurt his medical license.
And did you ever provide any information to him of any kind?
I told him about the time that all this was happening. One of my staff members, John Gibbs, knocked on the door, opened the door, and he said, "Councilmember, we've got to go to Kingwood with the mayor on a CIP project." And so it gave me an out to get out of there. And I was feeling very uncomfortable, because I felt like that I had just learned that something was going on that was very bad. And
I was just going to ask you that. While the defendant was telling you these things, not only about Zach and about Megan, what did you feel like? What was your perception of what was happening? Did you feel as though somehow you were becoming involved in something?
Well, I felt like, to be honest with you, I felt like I was talking to the devil himself when he was talking to me. He was so aggressive. He wanted Zach's number. He knew I had it, and he wasn't going to leave without Zach's number. So all I could tell him was the number did pull up in my computer that I had contact with somebody, and if I find out who it is, I'll get back with you. And so our conversation ended. I left with John Gibbs, and I got in the car. And
after that meeting was over, did you contact anybody because of concerns that you had based on the meeting and what was said?
Yes. As soon as I got in the car,
And let me rephrase, Judge. Who did you contact and what did you tell them after the meeting?
After the meeting, I felt very alarmed by what I had just learned. And I contacted I called the chief of police. He did not answer, so I called the assistant chief of police, and I told him what I had felt like had just happened, that I had a client who felt like I had information on.
Hearsay.
Well, it's not hearsay. He's saying what he said, but it's more in the question. I mean, it's more into a conversation than question and answer again. So let's break it up.
Yes. So you called somebody to contact them about concerns you had regarding your conversation with the defendant?
Yes, I was concerned that
Typically to Pittsburgh.
he mentioned Pittsburgh, yes.
And that was the intent, as you perceived it to be, initially, based on the conversations that he had with you, that he wanted her gone to Pittsburgh so that she would not be available for trial to testify against, correct?
He wanted her. He didn't want her to testify against him, and he said, "She can't testify against me. I want her taken back to Pittsburgh."
All right. Now, he also stated that he needed her out here, correct?
Yes.
And you then believed, and it's your insight, as was enunciated by the prosecutor, you then took that to believe that he was talking about killing the witness associated with these stalking cases. Right?
No, sir. I never made that statement.
Okay. Who was the officer that interviewed you?
On the phone, the first time,
Yes.
Counselor, his name was Larry. I can't, with major crimes. I don't have his full name.
And you never made the statement that you believe that Leon was talking about killing the witness and associated with the assault cases?
I never made that statement.
All right. And as far as you know, he was just having a conversation with you in order to convince Megan to get back to Pittsburgh.
He didn't want her to testify against him, and he had paid somebody a lot of money to make sure that she wouldn't be here to testify against him, and he mentioned Pittsburgh.
All right. I pass the witness. Thank you, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Is it excused?
Yes, sir.
Any objection for excusing the witness? You are excused, and we appreciate your testimony. Good to see you.